Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. India reports that Pakistan has violated the line of control ceasefire for a 10th night as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says he will take firm and decisive action against terrorists. Meanwhile, Russia calls for diplomacy and an easing of India-Pakistan tensions. Israel's military has issued thousands of call-up notices to reservists to support an expanded offensive in Gaza, according to a local Israeli media source. It comes as Israel calls on Qatar to stop playing both sides in ceasefire talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he won't play Putin's games over a short-term ceasefire. His comments come as Ukraine says Russia launched a drone attack on the capital Kyiv, damaging several residential buildings. Following a landslide federal election victory in Australia, Anthony Albanese's Labour Party says they will prioritise dealing with the US-China trade war. Albanese says he will run a disciplined and orderly government. The UK has arrested 5 men, including 4 Iranians, in connection with a suspected terror plot. The Metropolitan Police says the arrests relate to a suspected plot to target a specific premises, though limited information has been released. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says she has rejected a proposal from Donald Trump to send US troops to Mexico to combat drug trafficking. Sheinbaum says the offer was rejected because sovereignty is not for sale. US President Donald Trump is facing criticism from some Catholics after posting an AI-generated picture of himself as the Pope. The picture, also shared by the official White House social media accounts, comes as Catholics mourn the death of Pope Francis. 94-year-old Warren Buffett is stepping down as the CEO of Berkshire after 60 years at the helm. Buffett, arguably the world's most famous and revered investor, will step down at the end of 2025. We start this hour as Pakistani troops have violated the ceasefire along the line of control for a 10th consecutive night. During the night of May the 3rd into the morning of May the 4th, unprovoked small arms fire was reported across multiple locations opposite Kupwara, Baramulla, Poonch, Rajouri, Mandore, Nashera, Sundarbani and Aknor in Jammu and Kashmir. Indian forces responded promptly and proportionately to the violations. Pakistan has announced the closure of its ports to ships arriving from India. This follows India's decision to ban all direct and indirect imports from neighbouring countries. Meanwhile, Pakistan's military has said that Abdali weapon systems were launched to test operational readiness and validate the system's upgraded navigation and manoeuvrability capabilities. Border Security Force personnel captured the Pakistan Ranger trooper near Srinagar. The trooper had crossed the international border at the Raisanagar, breaching the barbed wire fence. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar spoke with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov about the Pahalgam terror attack. Lavrov urged New Delhi and Islamabad to resolve differences through political and diplomatic channels, in line with the similar agreement of 1972 and the Lahore Declaration of 1999. India has now reached out to all current members of the UN Security Council except China and Pakistan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reiterated that India is committed to taking firm and decisive action against the terrorists behind the Pahalgam attack and those supporting them. He made the statement after holding talks with Angolan President João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, who strongly condemned the terror attack. Well, joining us to discuss these latest developments in the ongoing India-Pakistan tensions following the devastating Pahalgam terror attack is Major General Rajan Kochhar, a defence expert. Thank you very much, Major General, for being here. Let's first talk about these ceasefire violations across the line of control, a 10th night of reported ceasefire action. How long do you think this will continue for? And if it does continue, what could be the ramifications for Pakistan?
Thank you, Joshua. I think these ceasefire violations are provocative in nature, and I think it's now 10 days. So ultimately, there will be review of the ceasefire, which was starting in 2003 and which was reviewed again in 2021. In 2021, also a similar kind of ceasefire violations were taking place from Pakistan, and including the higher caliber ammunitions like artillery and all, because right now it is only small arms fire, and the DGMOs of both the countries have a hotline, and they have already spoken once. And India has conveyed its concern to the DGMO of Pakistan. Brigadiers from both sides have spoken to each other at that level. And maybe the level gets escalated in the DGMO. You may find the DGMOs now talking to each other, because what happens is that in case you have frequent ceasefire violations, it will endanger the stated agreement between the two countries to enforce ceasefire. So in times to come, I think it is going to be a challenge for Pakistan more than India, because every ceasefire violation merits a response, and India has been responding very ferociously to all ceasefire violations by Pakistan. Joshua.
Yes, Major General. I want to talk about reports that Pakistan have tested the Abdali weapons system. Of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India also talking about responding to those responsible for the Pahalgam terror attack and anybody supporting those who did so. What do you think this means for a future potential conflict?
See, any kind of provocation like this, because there was no point in testing the missile at this point of time. If the Pakistan says they are only doing the testing, then I think it is a very wrong statement or incorrect statement to make, because at this point of time, whatever you do, it amounts to posturing. And once you are posturing like this, a similar kind of response you can expect from India. This Abdali missile is basically an offensive weapon in the weaponry of Pakistan. It's a surface-to-surface missile having a range of 450 kilometers, and it has got the potential to carry a nuclear warhead also. So these are provocative signs, because we also have missiles with the nuclear warheads, and we have more nuclear warheads than Pakistan. So I don't think this kind of nuclear posturing should be done at this point of time, because on the one hand, Pakistan is wanting to go to the Security Council in the United Nations, trying to pressurize India to tone down the war content, or to not resort to a strike. And Russian counterpart also, ambassador of Pakistan to Russia, he is also making provocative statements from that side also. And recently, the external affairs minister has met Lavrov, his Russian counterpart, and Russia is also wanting to diffuse the situation and have advised India to exercise restraint. So now the situation is that since the both countries are not talking to each other and third party mediations are on, I don't think it is going to have much effect on India. And this kind of posturing of the test firing of the missile will merit a similar response from India.
Major General Rajan Kocher, thank you ever so much for joining us. We will, of course, here on NewsX World continue to bring you all of the developments from the ongoing India-Pakistan tensions following the 22nd of April Pahalgam terror attack. We move now to the Middle East, and Qatar has rejected Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's criticism over its role in Gaza truce talks. The Gulf mediator said Netanyahu's comments lack political and moral responsibility. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesman Majid Al-Ansari posted the response online, condemning what he called inflammatory statements. Meanwhile, Israel is mobilizing tens of thousands of reservists ahead of a widening offensive in Gaza. Israeli media reported that the military is issuing call-up orders to replace active troops in Israel and the occupied West Bank. The military has neither confirmed nor denied these reports. In Tel Aviv, demonstrators gathered outside the Defense Ministry demanding action to secure the release of hostages held in Gaza and an end to the war. Protesters waved Israeli flags and held portraits of captives taken during the October 7th attacks. Let's listen in to what some of them had to say.
This country is going towards, with this very interest-oriented, politically oriented government, where nothing is really for the benefit of the citizens and more for their own benefit. So yes, I want to change this government. I want to be part of this force here that will maybe bring about the change, because we need that change.
Came to support Israeli democracy and the return of the hostages. And there's a sense of, we're drowning in the mud. There's no strategic decision made. There should be some thought of the day after, maybe some kind of, constructive work with other countries in the region that are more on the stable side, like Saudi Arabia. Something that would change the policy and most importantly bring back the hostages to us.
Meanwhile, airstrikes continued to hit Gaza with plumes of smoke rising over Al-Mawasi and Khan Yunis. Hamas's armed wing released a video of an Israeli-Russian hostage who appeared to be injured. In the 4-minute clip, the hostage spoke in Hebrew and showed bandages on his head and arm, claiming he was wounded in a recent strike. And yesterday, hostage families gathered to demand answers from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and urged a return to negotiations to end the war. Let's hear from one of them now.
The issue is that the military operation is going stronger and stronger, and then talking about bringing more troops and reserves, and we're really afraid that it's going to kill most of the hostages that are still alive and bury the other one forever. We ask President Trump, please help us, because it's in your power to end this war and release all the hostages back to their families.
Well, we're now joined by Professor Rohan Gunaratne, an international security expert who's joining us from Singapore to discuss the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Professor Gunaratne, thank you as always for being here with us. I want to first look at the reports that thousands of reservists are being called up by the Israeli military. What do you think they are being called up for, and what will the IDF do with more troops?
Netanyahu wants to open two fronts. One is the front of Gaza. He wants to expand it. He wants the operations to be conducted in a more efficient way. So for force regeneration, there needs to be additional reserves, and it is very likely they will have up to 50,000 enlisted. Second is, of course, there's a new front that is opening, which is Syria. It is unlikely that Israeli troops will be deployed deep into Syria, but there is an area where the Druze live, and these Druze have been hunted down by Ahmad Shara, the new leader in Syria, the HTS jihadi units. So Netanyahu has already done airstrikes in Syria. He has also deployed some humanitarian assistance to the bruised communities. So I believe that he wants to show that he's strong, he's capable, and if necessary, he will also go into Syria.
Yes, absolutely, Professor Gunaratne. We've had a response from Qatar, who, along with Egypt, have been playing a key role in ongoing ceasefire negotiations ever since the previous round of talks ended and fighting resumed. Benjamin Netanyahu accused Qatar of playing both sides, and they have responded. What impact will this have on any potential negotiations moving forward, which are looking to bring an end to this fighting and conflict?
Netanyahu's comment that Qatar is working double side or playing both sides will not help, but certainly it is not going to derail the negotiations. The Qatari Foreign Ministry has clarified, but what is important is that these negotiations will continue. In the most recent effort to revive the ceasefire, both Egypt and Qatar has played an important role. Of course, Netanyahu is demanding that all the hostages are released and that Hamas disarms. And that Hamas has disagreed. So I believe that there will be more discussion, more dialogue, and there will be more negotiation, and that there will be an agreement. But Netanyahu will deploy in strength. He will conduct more operations in Gaza, and that will bring Hamas to a point where Hamas will agree to some compromise from its current position.
Yes, Professor Gunaratne, to bring an end to this discussion, I want to look at a broader picture here. Of course, protests in Israel with over 50 hostages dead and alive still being held by Hamas. A video released by Hamas of a hostage appearing to be injured. Also an ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza with aid blockages and reports of starvation, with both sides looking at extreme difficulty for one reason or another. What will it take to push these ceasefire negotiations over the line?
Hamas released a video of Maxim, one of the hostages, one of the 53 hostages Hamas is holding, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihadis holding. At the same time, as you said, Joshua Barnes, there are many protests now in Israel by the Israelis asking Netanyahu to move forward to secure the release of these hostages, because through military operations, IDF has not been successful to release the hostages. But of course, these military operations have put sufficient pressure on Hamas to release some of the hostages. So what is going to happen is that within Israel, there'll be more pressure on Netanyahu. And of course, Netanyahu will put more pressure on Hamas and PIJ in Gaza by conducting these operations they will step up those operations. So that is the current development in Gaza and in Israel.
Professor Rohan Gunaratne, as always, thank you ever so much for joining us. Moving now to Europe, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of playing games after the Russian leader proposed a 3-day unilateral ceasefire to coincide with Moscow's Victory Day commemorations. Zelensky has called it a theatrical performance on Putin's part, as it is impossible to develop a plan for the next steps to end the war in just 2 or 3 days. Meanwhile, Russia announced a 72-hour halt in hostilities beginning from May the 8th, but has so far been rejected, and has also rejected an unconditional 30-day ceasefire pushed by Ukraine and the United States, which is trying to broker an end to the more than 3-year war. Zelensky said Ukraine would not be playing games to create a pleasant atmosphere to allow Putin's exit from isolation on May the 9th. When some foreign leaders are due in Moscow for Russia's World War II commemorations. Zelensky dismissed the 72-hour truce offer as unserious, adding that Kyiv was instead open to a longer-lasting 30-day ceasefire proposal, but forward by the US. He has also said that Ukraine could not guarantee the safety of any foreign dignitaries who came to Moscow for the traditional May 9th victory parade. Japan is voicing disappointment after failing to secure an exemption from US tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba says Tokyo made repeated appeals, but Washington went ahead anyway. The new 25% tariff on car imports took effect on Thursday, hitting Japan's vital auto industry. The sector makes up nearly 3% of the country's GDP. Markets responded swiftly. Japan's Nikkei index fell 2.77%, wiping out $127 billion in value, its lowest close in 8 months. Japan's Daiwa Institute warns that 24% reciprocal tariffs could cut real GDP by 0.6% this year. That's after sluggish growth of just 0.1% in 2024. Japanese officials are also questioning the US rationale behind the tariffs and whether the move violates World Trade Organization rules. Despite diplomatic pressure, Japan is now facing a penalty over what the US claims is a 46% trade imbalance. Ishiba says Japan will support domestic businesses and will press the US to reconsider. He added he's willing to speak to President Trump directly when the time is right. Let's listen in to what Prime Minister Ishiba has said.
極めて残念なことではありますが、本日から自動車部品に対する追加関税が発動されているわけであって、引き続き米国によります一連の関税措置につき、その見直しを求めていくという立場に変更はございません。
Moving now to North America, and Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has rejected a proposal from US President Donald Trump to send American troops into Mexico. The move, Trump said, was aimed at helping fight drug cartels. Sheinbaum said sovereignty is not for sale, firmly pushing back on the idea of deeper US military involvement on Mexican soil. Her response follows a Wall Street Journal report claiming that Trump was pressuring Mexico to allow US forces to combat trafficking along the shared border. A spokesperson from the US National Security Council said Trump has been clear Mexico must do more to fight cartels. The US, they said, is ready to assist and expand joint efforts. They also noted Trump and Sheinbaum have worked closely to secure the southern US border, but warned that cartels and foreign terror groups continue to pose a serious threat. The White House has not confirmed whether Trump formally proposed troop deployments in recent talks with Sheinbaum.
Las llamadas me dijo que era importante que entrara el ejército de los Estados Unidos a México para ayudarnos en la lucha contra el narco. Y quiero decir que es verdad, que en algunas de las llamadas, pero no así como lo menciona, dijo: ¿en qué les podemos ayudar para luchar contra el narcotráfico? Les propongo que entre el ejército de los Estados Unidos a ayudarle. ¿Y saben qué le dije? No, presidente Trump. El territorio es inviolable, la soberanía es inviolable, la soberanía no se vende. Puede colaborar, podemos trabajar juntos.
Moving now to the Indo-Pacific region, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has inspected what state media calls an important tank factory, hailing major progress in Korean-style armoured technology. Still images released on Sunday show Kim touring the site with top officials. KCNA did not reveal the location or timing of the visit. Kim says building advanced tanks and vehicles is critical to modernising the military and achieving what he calls the second revolution in armoured force. His visit is part of a wider push to upgrade North Korea's conventional weapons alongside its nuclear and missile capabilities. In recent weeks, Kim has also overseen the launch of a new destroyer and tests of next-generation drones. Meanwhile, US and South Korean officials say North Korea may be receiving Russian military support in exchange for supplying weapons and fighters for the war in Ukraine, though nothing has been confirmed. Moving on now, and according to medical charity Medicines Sans, Frontiers, at least 7 people were killed and 20 injured, and the last remaining hospital and pharmacy in the country's Fangak County were destroyed in bombings. Eyewitness footage reportedly shows people carrying pails of water as they scrambled to put out a fire at MSF's pharmacy in Old Fangak. MSF said helicopter gunships dropped a bomb on the pharmacy of the hospital, burning it down before firing on the town for 30 minutes, and then a drone bombed a local market. The hospital is the only one in Fangak County, which has a population of more than 110,000 people, and all its medical supplies were reportedly destroyed in the attack. Meanwhile, Sudanese paramilitaries have carried out a rare drone attack in the army-controlled east, targeting the fuel storage areas at Kassala Airport near the border with Eritrea, according to reports. That is all that we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more of the latest breaking news from across the world.